SIUE head coach Cale Wassermann entering his eighth season with the Cougars this year. So, Coach, your team entering this year picked tied for second in the preseason poll. What are your expectations like now that you've gone through preseason camp and get into the season? What do you expect from this team this season?
We have about half of a roster of new guys, so obviously there's going to be some challenges getting guys ingrained, but our expectations and the standards are always pretty high. We come into the year with the expectation to be champions in the OVC. We obviously know that, there's a lot of quality teams. We saw it last year, just the growth of the league and with Lindenwood having a great year, both in the regular season and the tournament, but not to understate the other teams as well. Houston Christian, Eastern Illinois, Western Illinois, Incarnate Word. It'd be interesting to see UTRGV and how they come into the league. But we expect to have a team that works extremely hard and plays with a bit of a chip on our shoulder, respectfully to our opponents. But after a bit of a down year last year, we know that we've got some work to do to get back to where we want to be. But we expect to fight every day and compete every day to be in the mix for that championship trophy come the end of the fall.
And you mentioned newcomers, and to play off the question you just said, how would you describe the personality of this team so far in the young part of the season?
I'd say selfless is a big one. I think we learned some good lessons last year where when times got tough, we started pulling in some different directions. And I think this year we've made a big emphasis throughout the spring, not only with the group of returners we had, but also who we brought in to make sure that we're more of a cohesive unit, working together, pulling in the same direction, playing selflessly. And the new guys have been great. It always takes a little bit for them to get fully ingrained into the culture and even just knowing the area and the campus and finding their way places. But really, we've got some great personalities in the group, and I think it'll be a team that shows on the field that they want to fight for each other, which is vital.
The rules have changed, transfer portal, things like that. But how do you go about putting your roster together? At the end of the year, you see who you got left. What's the perfect fit? How do you go out there and address those needs each season?
Yeah, from year to year, it's going to change with the amount of young guys or returners versus transfers. The one thing I will say is, if for those that know our program, we do have a decent amount of internationals, but we never want to lose that core of St. Louis, Metro East, kind of up to Peoria. This 2 hour radius, there's so many quality players in this area. So regardless of if we're bringing in freshmen like a Brady Cochran, who was one of the top goalkeepers in the region, he came to us from St. Louis City Academy, or if it's transfers from St. Louis, like a Grant Locker who came from Marquette, Anthony Faupel from Ohio State. Those are also St. Louis guys that are coming closer to home. They've already been great additions to the program. And then we also have some international flavor that comes in. We have a Colombian, a couple Spaniards. We've always had a couple English guys. So it really is a balance, and timing is so important. Sometimes you need to bring in a couple more in January like we did because we had such a large graduating class. So we were able to bring 4 guys in January, and then we added another 10 in August. So we have 14 new guys on a smaller roster of only 25, 26. So it's an ever evolving formula. The recipe is never the same. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to find guys that are the right fit, regardless if it's freshman, sophomore, American, international. We're always thinking about personalities and character, but also there's positional need, financial aid, academics. It's never the same recipe, but we've managed to build a great recruiting class this year, good balance of goalkeepers, backline, midfield, forwards, but also have a really great group of returning guys that I'm excited for. Some of them who were already key players in the program to continue on, but also guys like a Don Bartoni, or let me think of a couple others. Don Bartoni, Ben Perkins, even a guy like Tyler Sargent, who maybe had a bit smaller roles, but now those roles are starting to grow and evolve into more heavy minute contributing factors for our program.
From the outside, and you mentioned goalkeeping, your team, since you've been in the OVC, has done a tremendous job at goalkeeping, but you've had to find people every year and replace people. How hard is that? And does the success that some of your past people have had, does that help you recruit the next generation of goalkeepers?
Yeah, I mean, not only in my time here with guys like, we had Tor Erik Larson, who's playing professionally in Norway. Rob Jala and Sam Gomez both were the OVC goalkeepers of the year, but we've had to replace them. Last year, we started a very young, talented goalkeeper. But even after the season, with him moving on to another university, we've had to bring in some new blood. And so we do always talk about the history and the strength of our goalkeeping unit that's been here before. But we're really excited. We have a smaller three-man goalkeeping crew this year, all new guys, but two of them joined in January, so we were able to work with them for a few months. Louis Kruger, who's a German goalkeeper, he was a JUCO All-American. Giannis Koupepides, he was a D2 player. He's from Cyprus. And then, like I mentioned earlier, Brady Cochran coming to us from St. Louis, where he had a great career with St. Louis City and was the goalkeeper of the year for MLS Next and had an amazing playoff run with them, taking them to the national championship. So it is such a vital position. There's been strong goalkeeping in the league in the first 2-3 seasons of the league. Not only with us, we were fortunate to get some recognition, but I look around the league and I think overall there's been some really good goalkeepers, and in these one goal games that can be the difference.
Let me ask you about your schedule a little bit. We were talking that before we started recording, but in your non-conference, and you got the Bronze Boot game this year at your place. So that's something that definitely stuck out to me, but just your thoughts on your schedule.
Yeah, that's always going to be a big match, something that's circled on the calendar, not just for us, but for SLU and for the alums and for the community. So much history in the Bronze Boot. So we're excited to have it back home after going to their place last year. And obviously they had a great year going to the Final Four. So it's an amazing opportunity for us, as well as being our home opener. But on top of that game, I mean, we have so many quality opponents. We really challenged ourselves this year in the non-conference, knowing how strong the OVC has become. It's vital for us to be prepared for those matches. So, there's a few teams we've played more regularly, like a Loyola or Bradley, who will continue to play. But then adding in teams like Michigan, Michigan State, some Big Ten opponents like that on the road are really going to be challenging. And right now, kind of our main focus, we have Louisville for preseason in a couple days, but UMKC is our opener, and they've been great the last couple years. Regional rivalry, NCAA tournament team the last couple years. So, we understand how strong the OVC is, and we want to be ready for it. So, with all these new guys, we don't have much time to kind of ease into things. We've got to be ready for a gauntlet this first couple weeks, but it's definitely an exciting challenge and something that I'm looking forward to.
You mentioned some of those OVC teams earlier too. Do you think the league has had an identity in its first 3 years? Has it been more defensive, more offensive, competitive? I don't know, but what have you found so far? And I know you mentioned UTRGV, so they're obviously new, but what have you seen in the past with OVC teams?
Yeah, I feel it's a very balanced league. I wouldn't say as a league you could argue that we're overly attacking or overly defensive. I look at every team and most teams are hard to score on and they can punish you with their attack. So, there's different ways to do it. Obviously, some teams may be more counterattacking. Some teams may be more possession based. Some teams might press a little higher or defend a little deeper, but certainly I think overall every week we're facing teams that can hurt you on both ends of the field. So, there is different ways to go about it, and the fields are much different. You've got some turf fields, some grass fields. Um, but I look at this league and, even set pieces can be a threat on both ends. And every team's evolved a bit as well. I think even, I look at like in Eastern Illinois, especially with Hoy there, that's probably a team that's changed their identity the most from being a bit more defensive and physical to a very possession-oriented, attack-minded team. And so some of the other teams will have big personnel changes. Like obviously Lindenwood had a great year last year, and they're a very balanced team, but they're going to have a whole new starting lineup practically, give or take a few key players that have returned. So as a league, I think from week to week we're kind of ready for anything, and it's been shown that teams can beat you in a variety of ways. So we also, as a group, are evolving our identity a bit and ensuring that we're making changes based on our personnel a bit, but overall feel a balanced team as well with ability to press higher, but also the necessity to defend deeper, ability to punish teams on the counterattack. But obviously, over the last couple of years, we've shown we're a team that likes to be on the ball a bit more. So, it's a delicate balance. You want to have your own identity, but I think as a league, you really have to be ready for anything.
With what you were just saying about balance, do you heading into the regular season, do you think this SIUE team has a strength? And will that be your strength in October or November? How does that develop over a course of a couple months?
You're just talking about the overall, like our own
Yeah.
personal identity and strengths. Yeah, I think we're still figuring ourselves out a bit. We've got plans and goals, but who's going to play where, what system we're going to play out of at times will change. I think, we are a team that's going to fight tooth and nail to try to get clean sheets week in and week out. And so we want to be an attacking team, but we understand if you want to win championships, you can't concede goals and give away easy goals. And I think last year, even when we were good on the ball or attacking decently, we found ourselves climbing some uphill battles by punishing ourselves with some mistakes or some moments where we lacked focus and conceded. So from us, we are really focusing on the defensive end first and making sure that we're secure and locked down and organized. And I think with that comes the freedom to attack and play and be more progressive and be okay with our mistakes in our attack as long as we're not giving away things when we're defending. I do think we'll be quite a bit more athletic this year and pacey in our counterattack. I think last year, personnel wise, we were probably more suited for an East and West possession game. I think this year we've brought in a few more attackers that can threaten in behind. And so not only the threats we get from them will be a benefit, but the room that creates for us in midfield and around the back, I think, will hopefully translate to some more time and space when we're on the ball.
Last question. What is something about your team that you think people outside your program might not know right now?
Something outside of our team. Well, I'll tell you this. We've got some personalities. We've got a great group of returning guys. We just came back from a 2 or 3 day team retreat where we really got to see people come out of their shells. We have had some good banter, had some good some good performances and entertainment and skits where people weren't afraid to not take themselves too seriously. And I was even the butt of a couple of jokes, which I didn't mind. I mean, I think it's important for us as a group to really be free, loose, and comfortable with each other. These seasons are not easy. It's a grind. These guys they work so hard to balance their class load. You have travel, you have injuries, you have guys fighting for playing time. That if you don't loosen up and build some relationships and have some fun together, it can be very tough. And so what I would say is if you were a fly on the wall the last couple of days, I think you really would have seen that our team is full of great people, good personalities, people that are not afraid to be lighthearted when it's appropriate and have some fun. And hopefully that translates to us, enjoying this process together of such a tough season because it's competitive. It's a tough environment. People are fighting every day at training for playing time and building towards our goals. And we know that these are going to be battles on the field. So we've got some really good personalities in the team, and I'm hopeful and confident that will translate to some great culture on the field as well.
Well, Coach, appreciate your time and best of luck to you and the Cougars all season long.
Thanks, Kyle. We'll be seeing you.